So today we're going to talk about the new map Lotus because it is very, very interesting. And so let's first start off with a tour of the map and the gimmicks of the map, right? So here's the defender spawn. That's what it looks like. And you come out here and this is towards the A site, okay? So you've got this kind of area with a rope just there, nice little drop down. And you've also got this little drop as well that I'll just quickly do for you as well. You can't get back up this way so long as you're not like a jet or, you know, a raise or whatever, someone who can get up there. But with most agents, you can't get back up there, right? And this is the A site, right? This little temple thing in the middle, this little box here as well. And then you've got this little area here, and we'll get to that door in just a second. And you've got this kind of like longer pathway. This is where the attackers are coming from, just down there. So let's first now talk about the gimmick of the map, which is this door, which rotates, and there is a switch on either side of the door. So there's one switch there, the one that I just pressed just there, and the door rotates like so. It always goes in the same direction, so this one always comes this way to that way just there. And this door has some interesting properties as well, right? So for instance, if I put a nano swarm down from a killjoy and I swing the door open, you're going to see that nano swarm, even though I don't send it off, gets destroyed, right? And this is true of like a killjoy lockdown, for instance, right? Will also get destroyed, and a bunch of other stuff, like some utility you just can't place by it, right? And other bits will just get destroyed by it. So keep that in mind when you're placing this by the door, that quite a bit of utility will just be straight up destroyed by the door swinging open, right? But that's not to say if I do put one down and I open the door and then I quickly send it off, then it will still go off, right? So just keep that in mind for how these doors work. There is one of these doors here, and we'll get to where the second door is as well, okay? And just to quickly point out as well, where these lines are is where you can plant the spikes. So you can plant by this little box here, and it's pretty self-explanatory for where you can plant on this A site. But let's quickly go back to the defender spawn to see our second kind of option out, which is the stairs here. And these stairs will also lead to, you know, a nice little long line of sight down here, down towards A. And I do expect that, you know, common positions will be, you know, something like this, something where I just was just down here, right? Maybe an op down here could be very strong as well. Something like that, right? That those will be pretty common positions. Now, you can hear, and I should have mentioned this with the door, the door makes a sound, and it also goes off on the map, as you can see just there. So it makes a little symbol, and I'm assuming everyone will be able to see anytime a door opens. So I'm not sure a defender will be, you know, just stationed here at the door waiting for it to open, right? Because you'll be able to tell, right? So let's say I'm playing Killjoy. I might put a nano swarm down there, and as soon as I hear that door go off, I'm just going to quickly send a nano swarm and then just quickly check, oh yeah, no one came through. They'll have to open the door again, you know, to threaten that as if they've come through, right? So that's kind of how I see that kind of area working with the door. Let's once more come back to the defender spawn and head towards B. So we've come through this kind of bigger doorway just here, and we come out onto the B site. We're on this little ledge here, and you can see we've got a pretty weird plant area here with this kind of, you know, decline here with the steps going down and back up. Just in here, this is kind of an interesting little space, right, where you can crouch and maybe look at different positions just there. But this is what the B site looks like. Attackers will most commonly be coming from this direction just there, and so that is what you want to be aiming for. And again, if we go back, let's come a different way this time. So this is on our way to C. This is where you start. So you can come this way, and that heads out just to B there, as we just saw, or we can come to the C site instead, which is just here. And you can see again where we can plant. This one is a bit odd, to be honest, in terms of where you can plant. You have to be pretty deep in onto the site on like a bit of a raised platform just there. But we have another option as well with this little walkway up here as well towards the C site, which is all the way back here. So the defenders can either go this way or this way to come towards the C site. And this C site, as I said, is a bit weird. It's got this little raised platform here. It's got this will be the main way that you see the attackers come towards this C site. And here is our second door, which is in between B and C. So this is where one of the switches is. The other one is just here on the other side of the door. And so there's a kind of a connection between B and C just there. And this is where the attackers will come out of and in towards this B site just there. This is what it looks like from an attacking standpoint, right? And we've got all of our different options. And then this is something I definitely should mention. This is a breakable door. Okay, so you can shoot this door, and it's like the ascent doors, it breaks, right? And so it's just like the ascent doors, it's a little door there that just breaks, and that is a connection between B and A. And so this, it's kind of almost like a little alarm bot. It always starts up at the start of every round, and you know, as soon as you destroy it, then obviously the attackers can threaten to potentially come in this way instead towards this B site. And, you know, potentially even the defenders could break it, right? And get maybe a bit aggressive on A and come back and get aggressive at them and try and push out potentially from different angles. You know, all of that is really possible, as this is quite a complex map, I would say. Okay, now let's view things from the attacking perspective. So here's where the attacker's spawn is. And again, let's head towards A to start off with. So we come into this little room here. This is where the attacker's barrier is, right? So this is where we will start. I'll show you later on where just all of the barriers are. But we come out of here and, you know, we've got this little area here that we can, this little pillar we can walk around. There's where the breakable door is. Here's where the toggle door is. And, you know, again, these are like the common positions that defenders might be in. Maybe someone behind the door, maybe someone even pushing from the breakable door as well, right? These are the things that we're going to have to worry about as we come out as the attackers towards this A site. And as we scale up towards this A site, you know, we could come through the door here. This is one potential option for us just here to come in through the door, take a look at just that, or we could come down this way instead, obviously, and potentially do a little A split through this way instead, and come on to the A site just there. Now going towards the B site from the attacker's area, we can just come straight down here. There is an ult orb there. I'll get to that in a second. And we've got the obviously switchable door just there from C, and we're just coming straight into the B side. This is a very basic one, basically. And coming towards C, we've got this area just here, where we've got this space, and then we come out, we come towards C, and then we are met with this little hill here in the middle. That's obviously where the defenders kind of spawn, just there, or where they can their barrier starts, and we have this little space to duel in overall. So let's quickly just show you where the ult orbs were. We probably saw them on the way. So there's one here just outside of C. There is 3 ult orbs on this map. This one I would call kind of a neutral orb, to be honest, because the defenders do start closer to it, as you will see in a second. But yeah, this one's a bit of a neutral one, I would say. We've got this one on B just here. This one is, I would say, very much for the attackers, because the attackers spawn right here. You can see this orb at all times. So it's going to be very hard for the defenders to get this orb, I would say. But for the attackers, probably not too hard. And then the final orb is just here, kind of in the middle of A. But I would say that this is, again, slightly for the attackers, that you can kind of, you know, come this way on it. And if that door is closed, you know, if we haven't destroyed this door yet, right, this is probably a pretty safe way of getting this ult orb here on A. Now, just to show you, these are where the barriers are. So on this C barrier here, this I think is the most important one. It's quite a big gap from, you know, where the attackers start to where the defenders start. So I do expect that there will be fighting in here between the two sides. That, you know, this area will be fought for and contested for pretty heavily. Towards this B site, you know, this is entrance, as I say, you can see pretty much where the ult orb spawns, and you're pretty much, you know, not that far away at all from being right on the doorstep of the B site. And then towards A, we start over here in this little place just here, and the defenders, you know, they start at the door and just across that A site just there. Kind of, you know, a more neutral, I would say. This is probably where some fighting is going to take place overall, as, you know, it's a bit of a neutral space, probably up until like this. You know, the attackers will probably be able to take, right? I don't think you'll have too many problems getting to the door necessarily. But then as we go forward from that, you know, we start to enter neutral and then ultimately defenders territory. And so let's quickly talk about how I see the map playing out. And so the first thing I want to talk about is where will be contested areas, right? What parts should we be fighting for? What should we let go? Well, I think that this is going to be a very important place for the attackers. And I think that this A main area is going to be where a lot of teams start with, and, you know, kind of maybe the more heavy part of a default goes towards this A area overall. And let me explain why. Because there might be an op down here. This might be a common op angle, as I mentioned. So we want to probably put a smoke in there, right? And just take control of, like, the orb and whether we want to destroy the door or not, right? This is kind of, I think, what I see starting out a lot of rounds on this map, right? We want to put a smoke in there, block off the vision, take control of this, right? First, let's just get control of this. We can potentially then destroy the door, which opens up our options. We can then open this door, which potentially opens up our options, right? And so I think that this will be a very common battleground where it's pretty important, I think, for the attackers to come and kind of, you know, put a smoke in there, come and take this space on A, get control of it, and, you know, for the defenders, potentially trying to deny that in some way as well. Because towards B, you know, this is a pretty free space, right? As I said, the barrier kind of starts right here, so there's really nothing stopping us from getting up to this point. And then, you know, as we swing this corner, we know that the defenders, you know, might be there. Maybe they come and go for a push, but, you know, it should be pretty easy for us. And on this C site, I think it's very difficult for the attackers because we start all the way back here, right? So by the time we've got up to here and we're entering this kind of space, you know, the defenders, they start right here. You know, they start right by it. So they could potentially, you know, get all the way across here, you know, maybe even, you know, get all the way up here if you're not fast enough. You know, this is kind of somewhat their space that you have to come and take and come and claim from them, to be honest. So I think it's going to be tough for the attackers to come and, you know, really like heavily push people back out of C. You know, that might be one thing that you kind of feel like you have to do in a way if you want to go towards that C site. But I do think that this is going to be trickier, and I also think taking the C site is going to be trickier. Our options to plant are more limited, right? We have to like take the full site if we want to plant here on C, because we have to get all the way up here, right? So we're going to need to be smoking off this and probably back there and really taking the whole rest of it, which is not going to be easy because it's a complex space with verticality, right? There's multiple angles here going on as well. You know, it's not the easiest space to take, I don't think. And then potentially there's a big threat of a flank from B coming at any moment as well. You know, that's not easy, to be honest, right? To have to take B and C to stop the flank coming in, and the C space isn't easy to take. Coming and taking this B space, again, kind of has the same kind of vibe going on where a fast flank could come from C. I don't think it's as detrimental because, you know, we don't have to go as far away, I don't think. You know, we don't have to commit quite as much as I think we do on the other side. But even so, I think taking this B site will be much, much easier if we come and destroy the door, right? If we come and destroy the door and we can threaten a, you know, kind of this space as well, and, you know, we're coming in from multiple directions towards this B site, the B site becomes much easier to take, right? And so that, I think, will be just another reason why I think this A space is super important. And the other one is, I just think it's easier to probably get the spike down on A. It seems like this is a safer plant spot, right? This isn't a super wall bangable wall. It's a pretty thick wall. So, you know, we can get this spike down, hopefully, on A easier than it is on the other sites, I think. And also we get this passage to B potentially as well to, you know, if A doesn't work for whatever reason, we can then come back to B, you know, nice and fast and you know, hit the B site instead, right? Super, super important, I think, is this A space and this A area, because it's going to be difficult to take C, I think. And the, you know, this C door is going to cause us some problems, and the rotate here between B and C isn't that far away either, right? So it just feels like coming towards A gives you more options, and it's also probably, I think, a bit easier to get onto the A site as well. But now let's come to the part of the map that I think makes it super interesting, super complex. That is the post plants, because there is a ton of things, and there's going to be flanks on flanks on flanks on this map, and the post plants are going to be insane, right? Let's say we get the spike planted down on A, right? Spike goes down, let's say there, right? As a kind of general assumption. Think about this, right? We've got the spike down there. Where are we going to play, right? We're probably going to have maybe someone towards tree. Maybe we even have someone playing deeper on the site as well, right? Maybe someone's even in hut as well. But then we've got problems, right? Because, well, someone's probably coming from stairs as the defenders. But what if they're coming from B as well through the door, right? If you're back here, you're in a lot of trouble, and there's multiple people coming from you. So you honestly might want to get all the way back here, right? You might want to be coming all the way back here for a post plant that's miles away from you at this point. But because there's so many options on this map, because, you know, there's flanks on flanks on flanks on this map, you know, that's probably a good idea to get like super, super deep, you know, have someone be watching these multiple different angles that these defenders can come from, so that those players on site don't just get overwhelmed, you know, with people coming from all directions. And maybe even a big flank comes as well, right? And then you're in trouble. So there's just a ton of options is my kind of overall point. But there's options for the attackers as well, right? Maybe we're going to come around flank through B, right? Maybe we're the ones that are going to use the door and come around this way instead, right? And we're going to come all the way around here, and we're going to come into defender spawn instead, and we're going to get some free kills this way, right? That's a possibility. There's just a ton of different things going on in these post plants. It's going to be super, super interesting. These doors add a layer of complexity as well, particularly this one between B and C for any time the spike is planted on these sites. It's going to get really, really weird in the post plant is my point, and it's going to be super interesting. But because there's 3 sites, you know, we might end up in a post plant pretty often because, you know, the defenders have to defend those different sites. And so it's going to be very, very interesting, very, very complex overall. And so now let's finally finish with my overall thoughts on the map. My overall thoughts are pretty simple. I really, really like this map. I think it's a really, really cool map that is going to take a while for people to like fully figure out. When I was first playing on Pearl, I was like, yeah, this is okay. I already kind of straight away had problems with parts of Pearl that have kind of lingered and carried on, you know, particularly towards that B side of the map. On this map, Lotus, I kind of like it. I really do kind of like it. I think it's super complex. I think there's a ton of things to do, as I'll probably get in tomorrow. I think there's a ton of like decent options for agents and different styles and comps as well for both sides. And so yeah, I think there's a lot going on this map, and I'm kind of super interested to see how it plays out, because I think it's like the right level of complex. You know, with all the abilities as well in Valorant, I think that this is going to be super interesting to see different ways that people approach this map. I think it's a really good map design overall. I think the gimmick is very good and rewarding to use correctly and find interesting ways to use. I think, you know, there's some really interesting parts. I think that this little A-Link part is just kind of really cool with a breakable door, and I'll be super interested to see how, you know, this, how do you defend this, right? Where do you defend this? What's the best way to defend it? You know, super interesting stuff. And so those were just my thoughts. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below as well. What agent are you excited to play on this map, as I will be getting to what agents I think are good tomorrow.